Welcome to Not Suitable for Democracy, the show about the problems facing American democracy and sometimes how to solve them with organizing. I'm your host, Nick, and this is the 40th episode, Big 40. We are going to be diving all the way in to the No Kings March. Now, there have been marches all around the country, but we fortunately were able to go to New York City in Manhattan, where we marched down from Central Park South all the way down to 34th Street, all along 7th Avenue. We've got live coverage, great interviews, and we've got the numbers to prove that this third No Kings March was a success. So, without further ado, let's get into it. But first, make sure to subscribe to Not Suitable for Democracy on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. We're going to have 3 episodes launching this week, so make sure to subscribe so you'll get notified as soon as they're out. Now, back to the show. We are live at the intersection of 34th Street and 7th Avenue at the end of the No Kings March. Today, there were thousands upon thousands of people making their voice heard, marching in the streets with tons of creative signs. Now, I was here at the last one, and they had so many great signs, but even more this time around. So stay tuned for more creativity right here on Not Suitable for Democracy. On Saturday, March 28th, millions of Americans took to the streets to protest and make their voices heard regarding the Trump administration and all the corruption in between. So, No Kings, for those who don't know, is a nationwide single-date protest, and it's been a series. First one in June of 2025, second one on October 18th, 2025, and now this latest one was on March 28th, 2026. So, each time, the number of attendees and people participating has grown from 5 million to 7 million, and we'll let you know how many turned out for this protest by the end of the episode. And also, to be clear, these really are demonstrations, right? We are demonstrating to not only our fellow Americans, but also to the government that we are not happy with the way things are going. We know at the heart of No Kings, right? The whole point is that our current president should not be acting like a monarch or a dictator or someone who has full authoritarian control over the country. We have checks and balances between the executive branch, judicial branch, and legislative branch. All 3 are supposed to work in harmony so we can have a functioning government. Now, that's the basis of the No Kings March, where we should be calling out the corruption. We should be calling for more transparency. And unfortunately, the fact that we are currently sliding into fascism with this government, we also need to be pulling back this narrative, but also challenging them to say, we are a democracy and the people are the ones who decide the decisions, not necessarily a dictator in chief. The No Kings demonstrations, these took place across every state in the United States, and it was also reported that this was the largest one yet. So let's dive down into New York City, okay? We know it's a city of 8 million people, 8.5 million to be exact, but also this is where we have, a huge history of protest and marching and that kind of liberal democracy that really, New York as a big blue city can really shine proudly and boldly on. This was the event for New York City. Demonstrators joined around 2 p.m. So this was in the middle of the day on Saturday. It was about 45-degree weather. Sunny afternoon, not too cold, but also with the sun shining. It was a really nice day for a march. You'll see throughout all the sea of people that there were so many signs this year. It was really great to see all the creativity, all the messages, especially the anti-war signs, because that has been a new element. Not saying it's a good thing that Trump went to war with Iran, but I am saying that it is a stronger rallying cry that brings even more people into the fold. So as you'll see, there are so many signs. There are so many, people that are very much ready to push back and fight against this administration, but also we're having a good time doing it. And I think that is key. So take a look as more folks are just being inspired and enjoying their time at the No Kings March.
I want to see pictures of it. That's great. We need teachers. We need books. We need the money that the billionaires took. We need teachers. We need books. We need the money that the billionaires took. We need teachers. We need books. We need the money that the billionaires took. We need teachers, we need books, we need the money the billionaires took.
So as the march was winding down 7th Avenue, we eventually made our way to 34th Street, and that was where the official end of the march took place. When I was down there, I had the opportunity to, kind of hang around, see all the signs coming through, and it was a really great sight to see. And the fact that we saw so many people just feeling, inspired, positive, and I think people just generally walked away feeling like they truly made a difference. Now, we know that these differences, like making a difference, isn't happening overnight. But the fact that we know that we were not alone, not only in New York City, but cities around the country, all different parts of the country were participating in the No Kings demonstrations. So having been a part of that was a very inspiring feeling, and I'm just so proud to have been there. And I know I'm not the only one who felt that way, because I had the opportunity to interview 3 very cool demonstrators and folks who marched in the No Kings March in New York City. So each of them had a really great sign that I thought was really funny, clever, but also really meeting the moment. And I think that's really what most of our, most of the protesters or most of those marching really had in mind, right? We've got 3 great interviewees, so I had the pleasure to first talk to Rita, who was promoting the Save America movement. Now, obviously, we definitely need to save America, but her sign was so funny where it had, a picture of Pete Hegseth with, as we heard about the Operation Epic Fury. Well, I'll show you what it said at the bottom of her sign, Operation Epic what? So, without further ado, let's hear from Rita why she came to the No Kings March, what was her inspiration for the sign, and more about the Save America movement. We are here live on 34th Street and 7th Avenue in the heart of New York City at the No Kings March. Now, we have a ton of great signs out here, and we have one right here. Now, look at this. We've got Operation Epic F Up, right? We know exactly who that is. Pete Hegseth. Now, we are not a fan of him on Not Suitable for Democracy, but I want to learn more about the creativity behind the sign. So tell me, who am I here with today?
Frida.
Now, Frida, what was your inspiration behind the sign today?
So I am a supporter of a new organization, the Save America movement, started by Steve Schmidt and a number of other wonderful, brilliant minds and democratically spirited patriots. And the Save America movement is making posters of all these rascals and horrible creatures that have really taken over our democracy. And one of the important things that Save America movement is doing is they are following the efforts of the concentration camps getting built in the country, and they're videotaping them and interviewing communities and helping communities really deal with this assault.
That is a lot of important work. That's amazing to hear.
Yeah,
So now, great group. So what was the name of the group again?
Save America Movement.
Save America Movement. You heard it right here on Not Suitable for Democracy. So what I also would love to know is this your first No Kings protest?
Oh no,
You were at a few more earlier, right?
I've had many.
So what has been your perspective on the No Kings movement, but also what we expect to see after March 28th?
Well, I think that every time we go out into the streets and exercise our First Amendment rights, it gives everybody the idea that they can do the same thing and that they should do the same thing.
Now, are you an active voter? Do you vote in your primary elections, your general elections?
Absolutely, and I've been voting since I turned 18, whatever it was. And
I love that. Me too.
yeah, very important, and we're going to crush them in November.
That's right. Now, one last message. Do you have any advice to someone who wants to get involved and be a part of your organization or even just in general?
Well, yes, get involved. Get involved in whatever way you can and feels comfortable. And sure, Save America Movement, Common Cause, there are wonderful, wonderful organizations who have been, some at work for only a few months and some like Common Cause for decades and decades. So, support them and get active.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So if you'd like to learn more, make sure to check out the Save America movement. And Rita, I hope you enjoyed the rest of your weekend, and I cannot wait to see you at the next No Kings demonstration. So after Rita, I then found another fabulous sign that was actually huge, by the way, and it was in cardboard. It was actually probably the size of me, believe it or not, right? So it was this really big sign, and it was done by Zoe Zero. And Zoe Zero, her and I, now we are aligned on just about everything we talked about, which was very fascinating just because you go to these protests and you meet people who may be more liberal, more center right, leftish, then you get folks that are very progressive, very socialist, very communist, right? So you get a huge spectrum of people. Gives me hope that more people are waking up, they are politically informed, and we both have the passion of being engaged in our democracy, especially local elections, because that is where we can actually make the most difference at a very hyper local level, but also build the movement from the ground up. So let's hear what Zoe Zero had to say, the inspiration behind her sign, and what we learned more about meeting this moment. Speaking of amazing signs, we have even found a huge one right here. Know that it says, "Enough civil war, bring on the revolution." And boy, we are ready for a revolution. So let's learn more about the inspiration behind the sign. So tell me, with this amazing sign, what's your name and what was the inspiration?
My name is Zoe Zero, and I'm just sick and tired of the absolute BS, if I can't curse, I'm not sure, because I'd rather at this point. I guess the biggest thing is that if we're going to go backwards, let's just get done with the damn Civil War already and move on to the revolution.
Yeah, and speaking of, there's just been so much passion out there today, but how are you feeling with everything going on with the current administration and our democracy in general?
I think we are closer to absolute destruction than we've ever been. We are no longer 2 minutes from midnight. We are 2 seconds to midnight at this point. I mean, thermobaric bombs, friggin' atomic warheads, all sorts of crap that's just not gonna end well for anyone. It's the reason we shouldn't have done it in the first place.
Exactly, and just the fact that right now we are in the streets of New York City making our voices heard. So I'm assuming this is not your first protest, but what got you involved from going off the couch to into the streets?
Well, getting off the couch was actually difficult because I am chronically ill, so it takes everything I have to do this. And
I just want to say real quick, I am so sorry, but thank you for making sure that you can get your voice heard and being a part of this and anything to do help. So as you were saying, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, but that's a big thing. Is I couldn't be more sick of sitting on the couch doing nothing. If no one else is gonna stand up, I'm gonna do it, even though I can't half the time.
So if she can do it, that means everyone watching, you all can do it too. Exactly. Now, another question. Now, are you an active voter? Do you participate in our democracy primaries?
I've run elections before. I've for Putnam County and up at state a bit, and so forth. So yeah, I believe in the I believe in the elections. I know how flawed they can be and how flawed they are. But I also do know that they are the only damn thing keeping us afloat as a democracy. And if we get rid of that, we're screwed.
100%. Right here on Not Suitable for Democracy, we know that our democracy is going to be one of our ways out of this, which is why we need everyone. Get registered, participate, primaries, general, special elections. This is how we make a difference.
Vote every time, especially local. Local is where it starts.
That's right. Local is where it starts. Now, one last message for anyone who is watching at home on YouTube or listening in on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. What would be your message to them?
The simplest thing I can think of is one of the oldest messages, and that's all power to the people. You know, the Black Panther Party, it's not what you think it was. It's not what you've been lied to about. It's the party we should be behind at this point, really, because they're the only ones doing any good. Look into it. For your listeners, look into it.
Yes, please look into it. Do your research and your homework, because remember, a lot of what's out there from what we've been told has not necessarily been as truthful as we're clearly finding out. But at the end of the day, again, get involved, stay informed, because that is suitable for democracy. Thank you so much for your time, and we really love the sign. One last one for the viewers at home, for those who are watching. And again, that is what makes our democracy so special, right here in New York City. It was so fascinating to hear from Zoe. I'm so glad that she's taking, that next step to really get involved. But not just that, really put her heart and soul and every ounce of energy she has. So I just find that so admirable, and I hope you do too. And I cannot wait to see her at the next, whether it's protest in Queens or the No Kings March. But at the end of the day, this is how we organize. Right? We connect, we organize, and we build on this movement and get more people involved. And I cannot wait to see what Zoe does next. So for the last guest I interviewed, I was very fortunate to come across Michael, who was waiting on the sidewalk with his really big sign, which was actually a Mr. Ed reference. So the idea that someone could be funny and clever with their sign, that caught my attention. And believe it or not, just like Zoe, Michael and I had a lot in common, especially in terms of our political ideology and our viewpoints. But even more so, the fact that we were able to talk about what was happening in our locality, right? Speaking of what's happening in our respective districts, him out in Coney Island, me in Astoria. But the point is the fact that I met someone else who is also informed, also fighting for progressive politics, and understood the value of getting corporate money out of politics. That is huge. Still, too many people don't understand the evils of having money in politics. So the fact that Michael absolutely understood that, but more importantly, he's been fighting Trump since the 80s. So the fact that we have, these long time, not only, let's say, these long-time voters, but people who have been engaged in our democracy, fighting the good fights for a long time, that gives me hope that this type of energy and this type of legacy will carry on, especially with the next generation. So as we share these stories and hear more about what's been going on, without further ado, hear what Michael had to say about his sign and about the state of our democracy right here in New York City. The march has officially ended at this point. It's just after 5 o'clock, and there are still some really great signs out there. And as you can see right now, I am here with Michael with an awesome sign. So I'd love to learn more about the sign and inspiration behind it. So Michael, how are you doing today, and what was your inspiration behind the sign?
Wilbur, of course. I should, someone just said to me, that, of course, and I thought, I should have written that down on the bottom, but Trump has all the Sharpies.
That's actually pretty on point. I love that. So, yeah, there we go. So, speaking of Sharpie point references, right? We love a good pun here. So, on Not Suitable Democracy, right, we are all about making sure that people get involved in their local democracy. And we are in New York City right now. So, Michael, what inspired you to come to the No Kings March?
Well, I've been fighting against Trump since the 80s, since I was a teenager. Yeah, when he first was getting tax breaks from Mayor Koch to build his towers that block out the sun and cause people to be displaced people and caused homelessness. And then I watched as corporate Democrats continued to enable him. And I think that if we look at history, kind of bankrupt liberalism leads to fascism, as opposed to true progressivism.
I actually just want to touch it real quick. I love that I just met Michael on the street, but we have maybe like 99.9% aligned on the views right now. The fact that, exactly, right? Because we know that money, our first episode on this podcast was getting money out of politics, and that has been the root of a lot of these issues that we are seeing today. The fact that you've been fighting this fight since the 80s and literally still on the streets now making it work. This is why together... But together, this is how we inspire the next generation to get involved. So, Michael, are you an active voter in your primaries, general election, special election? Like, what's your thoughts on voting in our democracy?
It's important. People died for the right to vote, and yes, I'm a voter. But we have to remember, as Abby Hoffman said, democracy isn't something that happens once every 4 years. It happens every day. So voting is just one part of it. We need to be... And marches are just one part of it. Everyone has to find their way of, if they feel they need to, be active and make a difference, whether it's through your art and organizing, et cetera, et cetera. So voting's just one part. But it's an important part. But I'm terrified because now Trump is trying to do everything he can to destroy our vote with the what's the act? What is he calling that act?
Between the SAVE Act and between now the gerrymandering and with what's happening with the Supreme Court, where they're whichever you prefer, that's fine. But real quick, just to catch folks up, what Michael is talking about is that right now we have the SAVE Act that's trying to make their way through the Senate. It might actually fail, believe it or not, but we don't want the SAVE Act to pass because it would ruin registration for millions upon millions of people across the country. But also, we know that with the Supreme Court, they are hearing a case by the Republican National Committee trying to take away the mail-in ballots after they've been mailed in or postmarked by Election Day, which would definitely disqualify a lot of Democratic voters, but also just folks who don't have the opportunity to vote in person. And then, of course, lastly, the fact that we know Trump is doing anything he can, such as gerrymandering, and something that we've never done. It's unprecedented, changing the districts across many red states around the country.
I have felt that personally. Where I live was gerrymandered. I'm from Coney Island. I happen to be there right now, and my street was Coney Island. It's one of the most historical spots of Coney Island. It's Luna Park housing, which used to be the original Luna Park amusement park, and they've turned it into Brighton because they want the right-wing Trumper Ukrainian vote. So my council people used to be, if not progressive, at least liberal, and now my council person is I don't know if you know the woman Vernikova, the one who brought the gun to the pro-Palestine rally. So my own councilwoman wants to kill me. So that's gerrymandering for you. And Coney Island is so, as you go west in Coney Island, it's black and Latino and progressive, and they're trying to, weaken that demographic.
I'm so sorry that is your experience right here in New York City with your local Congress member of City Council, and it's just such a shame that we are still fighting this on a local level. And for full context, y'all know on the podcast that I am fortunately a resident and constituent in New York's 14th Congressional District for Congress and City Council member District 22 with Tiffany Caban. So I'm very well protected with we're just around the People's Republic of Astoria, the only district in the entire country with a Democratic Socialist at every level of government.
Oh, hooray for Astoria. I'm going there on Monday to get my taxes done for free. and for my dear old mother, who's sick with Alzheimer's now. And I'm out here for her. Yeah.
And that's the thing, too. We're out here for the people in our lives, for communities, families, neighbors, right? We are here for everyone who matters in our democracy, because right now it's slipping away faster than we could ever imagine. Any final words to the people out there if you want folks to get involved, or any last messages to folks listening in?
Yeah, this is a very, very scary moment. I want to stress again that it's not new in the sense of, the system has been, a plutocratic system, an imperialist system forever, and racist. And now I'm a Jew, an anti-Zionist Jew, who I get a lot of conflict from certain members of my family and people I grew up with. But my grandparents' whole families were killed in the Holocaust, and I saw president after president continue to support what I see as the crimes against humanity and the hypocrisy and what I see as very anti-Jewishness of Israel. But Trump is the first one who took the being a chump of Netanyahu across the line and actually went to war with Iran, which is putting us we're on the brink of annihilation if Trump and Netanyahu decide to wage nuclear war. And the oil situation. The only thing I think of that is a possible good thing about it is that the oil situation can cause the renewable energy industry to step it up. But Trump has been destroying that, so he's been setting us back on that. So I really don't see anything good except in people like you and everyone else here. And I want to just reiterate what I said before you turned the camera on. You asked me about the sign, and I went. See, now I can't do it. I lost my saliva. Wilbur. I always loved Mr. Ed, and and in the sign, Mr. Ed represents all the creatures who can't speak for themselves against Trump destroying and his henchmen destroying our planet. It's not. It's all of life is in danger, and we have to work for the whole planet and our ecosystem. So.
So thank you so much for that, Michael. And remember, for anyone out there, this is why we're on the streets trying to get involved, doing our best to be loud and proud and make our voices heard, because that is suitable for democracy. And there you have it. Even though there was a lot of shaking at the end, we still made it work, because that is what we do on Not Suitable for Democracy. Shaking the camera, not suitable for democracy. But getting involved, making a great protest sign, and being informed about your local politics, now that is suitable for democracy. So to Rita, Zoe Zero, and Michael, thank you all so much for joining me on the podcast, being an interview guest. I was so excited to speak to all of you, and I cannot wait to see what each of you do next in your next round of activism, organizing, and especially voting. And last but not least, as promised, here are the numbers for the No Kings March. So first of all, there were over 3,000 demonstrations all across the United States. Can you believe that? Over 3,000 organizing events. With all of those demonstrations, how many people actually showed up? Well, back in June of 2025, 5 million people showed up to these demonstrations. In October of 2025, 7 million people showed up to these demonstrations. And like we said before, with everything that's gone on since then, believe it or not, 8 million people have participated in the No Kings demonstrations on March 28th alone, making it the single largest day of nationwide protest in American history. So, thank you everyone to everyone who marched, who protested, made a sign, made their voice heard, and supported in some way, shape, or form, because we made history. And I am super excited to have been there. And it was such an inspiring moment to have met so many great people, talked to great people, but also it really restored my faith in humanity, especially in this country, knowing that when we come together around these common issues and fight for what's right, we can truly make a difference. So, not only that, but we also know that with New York City, In the last protest, it was estimated that anywhere from 100,000 to 300,000 New Yorkers took to the streets in Manhattan. Well, the numbers are in, and we can officially say that there were over 350,000 people who participated, 350,000 New Yorkers, mind you, who participated in the No Kings March. That's New York City, 350,000. And we know nationwide in the United States, 8 million people marched or at least participated overall. But guess what else? Also, if you think about it, 1 out of every 50 Americans participated in a No Kings March on March 28th. I'll say it again. 1 out of every 50 Americans participated in the No Kings March on March 28th. That's how many people got involved. And if you do the math, it's accurate, where you have 8 million people who protested nationwide in a country of about 340, 350 million. The math is mathin'. So that means 1 out of every 50 Americans participated in a No Kings March. This should terrify Republicans and especially Trump. As much as they try to brush it off and try to, belittle the entire movement, that is no easy feat to get 8 million Americans to, actually participate in one common event nationwide at the same day, on the same time, doing it together in unity. That is truly special and powerful. And listen, we know there are people out there who don't support the No Kings marches, right? Some of them might not get it. Some of them have a different theory of change. So, sure, like I've mentioned earlier in the podcast, if we're truly fighting, for change, then is showing up in the streets with your protest signs, is that really making a difference? Some people argue no, it's not. Trump's still in power, Republicans are still corrupt, right? Nothing is actually changing despite, having 8 million people taking the streets. However, what I would actually argue is that while we might not see the overnight change and we might not get the policy extractions that we should be demanding, what we are seeing is that just about every county that's had a No Kings demonstration where there was a special election flipped from Republican to Democrat. Best example I got, Tarrant County in Texas. Now, Tarrant County is also home to Fort Worth, Texas. So it's just the idea that Fort Worth was generally, governed by a Republican state senator. And it wasn't until Taylor Ramett had not only run as a working class, pro-union state senate candidate, right? Being millennial, but also having no prior political experience other than becoming the president of his local union, right? He took a chance in Tarrant County to run for that state senate seat. Now, let me just refresh your memory. It wasn't until October of 2025 that there was a No Kings demonstration. Taylor's election was in November. Now, he didn't win outright because even though he won the plurality of votes, he didn't win over 50%. So there was then a runoff. And that runoff happened earlier this year in 2026. And that is when he shocked the nation by winning his upset victory in a ruby red district, which is now swung to the Democratic candidate, Taylor Ramett, who is now the state senator in Tarrant County in Texas. So again, the fact that there was a No Kings demonstration there, it brought people off the couch into the streets. They mobilized around these common issues at the height of a special election, which Taylor Ramett ran a good campaign around affordability and working class issues. So the fact that No Kings was working in tandem with the elections out there, it let people know that there is a way to make a change. So I'm sure that plenty of people who organized the No Kings demonstrations were also marching and were probably also voters. So really exciting to see how even somewhere like Tarrant County can use that energy build off the energy from the No Kings March to then flip a once in a lifetime, or once in 3 decades, I think it's been, once in 3 decades going from Republican to Democrat in Tarrant County. I can't stress it enough, but this is why No Kings demonstrations are important. You might not see the results tomorrow, but you will see them eventually. So, with that said, I highly encourage you to join at the next No Kings demonstration, wherever that is. And if there isn't one near you, then I encourage you to start and organize your own. But until then, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate the support. And everyone who participated, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I cannot wait to see what we do next. And remember, democracy is not suitable without you. Thanks so much for tuning in. I truly appreciate the support. And if you like what you heard and want to learn more, then make sure to subscribe to Not Suitable for Democracy on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Or you can follow along on Instagram and TikTok. I use the same handle for both, so you can follow along at NSFD_pod. Thanks again so much for tuning in. Stay tuned for 2 more episodes this week, right here on Not Suitable for Democracy.